Hello and welcome to Your Town. My name is Steve Ellzey. I'm the president of Your Sanctuary Productions, and I'm so pleased to be here. We have a wonderful show for you. We're going to start right out introducing our guest. He is, I'll probably mess up the title, but the general manager, I believe, of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District. Dave Stoldt. Dave, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you here. I've been wanting to ask you questions for the last couple of weeks. I've been thinking about this interview. First of all, would you mind sharing with us a little bit about what led you up to this position? Because it has become integral with water resources these days, what you do.
Yeah, it's different on the Monterey Peninsula than other places, right? So it's kind of circuitous. I got my start here in 1992. I was in investment banking, but I've always had one foot in the public sector, one foot in the private sector. So at the time, private sector investment banker, financing public infrastructure. So in 1992, I was the banker for the Pebble Beach Reclamation Project, about $34 million. Took all the golf courses and RLS school off of potable supply. Introduced me to the wonderful world of water down here on the Monterey Peninsula and gave me a little taste of what some of the problems were. As you know, that was 3 years prior to the planned New Los Padres Dam that failed at the vote and the beginning of the state orders that kind of changed the framework here. And so I stayed in investment banking doing public sector work for about 13 years and then shifted to elected positions back east and a variety of different things. Got a call in about 2008, 2009 from the folks at the Water District. And at that time, the proposed regional desal plant was being talked about. And they wanted some work, and I was available. And so, 25 years later, kind of came back around.
That's wonderful. And we're very lucky to have you here. You're a terrific administrator and executive, and you're making things happen. As a special district, I know you have geographic perimeters or whatever. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so our boundaries basically are similar to the California American Water System main system boundaries. It's the 6 incorporated cities on the Monterey Peninsula and unincorporated Pebble Beach and Carmel Valley and 68 corridor. So pretty much limited. We cover part of Old Fort Ord, but we would not be providing services there. When the base closed, they ended up contracting with the Marina Coast Water District, so we kind of bump up against them at Fort Ord. Okay, so then Marina is the one city on the peninsula area. Yeah, if you give them credit for being on the peninsula, they're the one that's not included.
Right. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And that includes Sand City also. Then?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you said 68 corridor, and please forgive me, but what is there pieces of it specifically?
Yeah. Well, out to Ryan Ranch and York School, that area, and then Monterey, kind of, that would, and then as you look at a map, you get past Monterey and you head into the Toro Water District, which is not part of our jurisdiction.
And Dave, I love your tagline. People fret over taglines, but the bottom line with it is simple is the best. And I haven't memorized, but providing and protecting our region's water supply. Wonderful. It sounds like 2 responsibilities, main responsibilities. You have many, many more, I know. Yeah. But tell us about the providing part. Tell us what the district does there.
Well, a little less than people maybe expected back in 1977 when our legislation was written. The biggest, best hope for a permanent water supply was that New Los Padres Dam that I referred to, which the voters didn't approve in 1995. Since then, we've developed what's called Aquifer Storage and Recovery, or ASR, where we take winter water off the Carmel River, inject it into the ground, and then bring it back out in the summer when it's really needed. We, the district, sell recycled water in conjunction with the Pebble Beach Community Services District to the golf courses inside Pebble Beach, which freed up potable supply for the rest of the uses. And we will be selling at the wholesale level Pure Water Monterey recycled advanced water purification water beginning next year.
Now, and I'm going to take a tangent real quick. Could you tell us a little bit about that, in simple terms?
So orphan communities like ours out here on the coast, not connected to the Sierra snowmelt, no Colorado River water, no state water project water, pretty much have to fend for ourselves. So we're looking at the two primary resources have been groundwater, which got adjudicated in the courts, so it's in decline, and then the Carmel River, which has all these state orders, so it's in decline in terms of contribution to our water supply. So you pretty much have to look at things like water recycling or desalination, and that's really where we're headed here, both on the Monterey Peninsula and on the Central Coast. So Pure Water Monterey is an advanced water purification process, takes 4 different source waters, wastewater, agricultural irrigation return flows, so after it irrigates the plants, stormwater, and the agricultural wash water. When you get your little bags of lettuce, it's all pre-washed.
Okay.
Uses about 1 billion gallons a year here in the Salinas area.
Wow.
Yeah. So you take those 4 source waters, kind of mix them together, purify them, and it's better than the water that comes out of your tap today. So that's pure water. And that's coming online probably 3rd quarter of 2019.
So we're coming up on these things. Second source, desal.
Yep.
Well, where are we with that?
Well, what you'll be hearing in September is what we're all assuming will be permission, if you will, from the Public Utilities Commission for California American Water to build a desal plant.
Okay.
That permission also brings with it a 30-day window to file lawsuits over CEQA, the environmental process, and then you can't really get started until you get your coastal development permit from the Coastal Commission. That'll be another 6 to 9 months. So that's the window where we'll either see a project moving forward or lawsuits flying.
Okay, all right. And are there other projects, desal projects, that are currently on the table? And another question, let's ask that one first. Are there already desal plants here? I thought I've heard about a couple.
Yeah, well, so Sand City has a little desal plant,
okay,
brackish water desal. So it's not taking ocean water, it's taking salty water from beneath the sand dunes.
Oh.
Treats it up, and but it's very small. It's a minor contribution to our total portfolio.
Oh, okay.
But North America has been a little slow to the table, if you will. I mean, desal is very big in the Middle East, big in Australia. Not so much here. There's Tampa. There's a very large one down in Carlsbad that just came online last year.
Oh.
There's proposals in West Basin of LA and so forth. So we're heading in that direction. The coastal communities, people seem to like to live on the coast, And so it's going to be a constant struggle to find water supply on the coast. So desal is a natural fit. It's very expensive. It's very energy intensive. So it's not a good carbon footprint. So that's why advanced water purification, recycling, makes a lot of sense. It's cheaper, better for the environment.
And that sounds like there might be a larger portion of it than would be the pure water, and then some from desal.
Well, actually, we're going to be about 2/3 desal, 1/3 advanced water purification.
And forgive me for not knowing, but is this the deep water they've been talking about?
No, so deep water is another proposed desal plant located in Moss Landing. Good group of people, great concept. They're currently talking to equity investors to try to keep the project moving forward.
Okay.
Their environmental work hasn't been completed yet. It's probably 9 months away. But they're continuing to advance that project. And that would be an open water intake, whereas the California American proposal is a well-based technology. So they're pulling seawater, but through the seabed, kind of through the shore.
Sure.
So inundated, sandy seawater. Different ideas. But part of the problem is, in California, we like to make things complicated. So the state said, well, we prefer well-based intakes because it's less likely to capture fish or plankton or
whales.
Anything, yeah. It's called entrainment or impingement. So if you're in an open water intake, to get there, you have to first prove you couldn't do a well-based intake.
Oh.
And so deep water's gone through that process, and now they're in their environmental work.
Okay. But the one that you are working on with Caliam is actually the seabed. Is that what you?
Yeah, it's they call it slant wells. So you drill a well kind of beneath the sand dunes towards the shore, and you start sucking that straw very hard, and it pulls in seawater.
And you had mentioned the Carmel River before. I did not know this up until, a few months ago, but you're doing some pretty cool research with fish.
Well,
over there,
research
or-
and rescues. We spend a couple $1 million a year trying to protect threatened species, the steelhead trout. There's another organization protecting red-legged frogs. These are two identified threatened species under the Endangered Species Act. And in effect, what we, the district, did in 1990 was determine through an environmental process, through CEQA, that the extraction of water from the Carmel River was impacting the habitat and the species. And so we came up with all these mitigation efforts to allow the continued withdrawal of water, but at limited cost to the environment. So we'll do fish rescues, relocations. We have a facility in the woods that is an artificial channel so that as the river dries up, as summer gets hotter, we can relocate fish to the artificial channel, or we relocate them further upstream where there's water. And lately, we've been doing what's called pit tagging, little tiny electronic tags that go in to their belly or beneath the fin. And then there's electronic arrays at different locations in the river so that we can track, because with steelhead, you know, they'll head out to the ocean, and then hopefully they come back and they'll do this, you know, they can be 3 years old. And we've never had super accurate counts of steelhead. You know, we've had counts at the fish ladder on the old San Clemente Dam and the fish ladder at Los Padres Dam, so you see the ones that get there. But now we'll get to see them kind of cross through the array in real time. And we're doing that jointly with the National Marine Fisheries Service out of Santa Cruz.
Okay.
And it's pretty cool. You know.
California Fish and Game involved in any of that, or?
Yep. So Fish and Wildlife now. They
Fish and Wildlife. Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry.
So they're involved. The National Marine Fisheries Service is involved. We're involved, and California American Water involved, and we do a lot of joint planning on releases of water in the river, how much should be extracted from beneath the river. You know, so it's a cooperative process. It's probably one of the more or most over-examined rivers, coastal rivers in California.
Scrutinized very closely. And you actually have biologists on your staff.
Yeah, we've got trained fisheries biologists. Wow. Yep, and they'll work joint in the summer. We'll hire kids from CSUMB and elsewhere to do some of these rescues. You know, we make them walk upstairs with a bucket full of water to see if they're physically capable of getting out.
Okay.
Yeah.
How big of a bucket? I got to ask.
5-gallon bucket.
Okay. Yeah. That's not light at all. And that's amazing, because that's all part of the watershed for the sanctuary. So you collaborate with them in a way because you're taking care of that, I suppose.
Well, and it's a really interesting point, because the National Marine Sanctuary is such a resource for us. And as we begin to talk about desalination and the ocean plan, looking at slant wells versus open water intakes, it's just magnified here. So deep water, wanting to do an open water intake in a National Marine Sanctuary, that's a big lift.
Right.
And that's really one of the primary reasons California American went to the well-based technology at the very beginning, knowing that it was going to be a challenge. And you've got a lot of interested parties, you know, Surf Rider, on the ocean side, Land Watch on the land side. And, you know, we've got the Carmel River Steelhead Association. So there's probably about 22 different parties showing interest in our water supply planning that's going on right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. Tell me, I heard, and I don't know that much about it. I heard something about public water, and I don't know anything about it though. So
so that's an interesting question, because we're more the exception than the norm here on the Monterey Peninsula, in that we've got an investor-owned utility providing water service.
Okay.
And there's 9 what we call Class A investor-owned utilities providing water service in California.
Oh.
And they only provide about 15% of urban water. So most water supply, 85%, is provided by public agencies, either a division of your city government or a standalone district like our district.
Okay.
But here in the Monterey Peninsula, we've got one of the investor-owned utilities, and over in Salinas, they've got another one of the investor-owned utilities providing water service. So for folks around here, we don't think of it, we think of it as an anomaly. Oh, what, public water? That's odd. Well, it's not. As I said, it's 85% of all urban water supply in California. So you go to the Bay Area, East Bay Mud, public. San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, public. LA Department of Water and Power, Metropolitan Water District. These are all public entities. So it's an interesting discussion. Missoula went public about a year ago, year and a half ago. Ojai has tried it. Claremont has tried it. There's different entities that have gone from a private water provider to a public water provider. I've seen it more on the electric utility side from my past history. South San Joaquin Irrigation District trying to take PG&E's portion that served their district and so forth. So
all right.
It does happen, but it's very, if you're not for sale, then it becomes very confrontational.
Okay.
And I think that's what's going on here. We have the organization, Public Water Now, who are a lot of concerned citizens, concerned about where their water's coming from, what the cost of that water is, and they say, you know, isn't there a better way? And there's arguments on both sides of that equation.
There always are.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we all agree on is conservation. And when I look at the figures of consumption in this area, tell us about how Monterey fares in terms of conservation.
Yeah, a couple of things. So I brought you a chart that you can look at later that shows water consumption since 1997 through 2017. And it's just a screaming downhill curve. And that's come from a variety of places. You know, we've enacted so many different rules and regulations beginning back in the 90s, but clearly, 2002, we made all visitor-serving hospitality entities, hotels and restaurants, do specific conservation measures. In 2013, we made all commercial businesses enforce. When you sell a house, you have to confirm that you've upgraded all of your fixtures to the current standards. And so we'll do inspections to confirm that. There will be deed restrictions and so forth. So we've been at the front leading edge of conservation. And then there's also what we call a steeply tiered rate structure that promotes conservation. If you get up in tier 5, you're paying 16, 18 times what you'd be paying in tier 1.
Wow.
So that's a pretty good disincentive to go water the roses on a frequent basis. So the impact of that, both in the chart on conservation being a way of life, which it is here, there's another chart that shows consumption, and you can see it going up from the early 1920s through the mid-80s, and now it's been coming back down. Our customer demand for water here on the Monterey Peninsula is where it was in 1959.
My goodness, and the population is just...
And the population has increased, and our hospitality industry has increased. Education here has increased. So it's, we're leaders. We're in the position where on average we're using about 50 to 55 gallons per person per day. That's a standard that the state just passed this year, trying to enforce throughout the rest of the state. So we're already there where the state wants us to go.
We're leading the pack.
We're leading the pack.
Well, and I'm glad that you are one of those leaders, because I will follow you without a doubt. Dave, thank you so much for being with us. And will you come back again?
Absolutely.
Because I want to talk some more water with you.
And it's probably going to change, so we can update everybody on what's going on.
We'll see you very soon. Thank you so much.
All right, Steve.
We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back.